And welcome everybody to the glorious episode of the Put on Raiders podcast. I'm your host Dwayne Douglas, and I'm podcasting at the beautiful shores or in some random eating area because I'm I'm just trying to get it done before I go home. Alongside Robert Ryan Holmes here. Trying to break down the Raiders 855 to 14 loss to the Kansas City Chiefs. Ryan, how you doing today?
I'm doing better today than I was doing last night for sure.
Yeah. So let's just, we'll break it down on the full show later in the week. But at the end of the day, I think we know what has to be done now. I think we just do. I think it's something that I kind of avoided because I know how long the journey was from Rich Gannon to Derek Carr and how many quarterbacks were in the way. I think you might as well just do what the Niners are doing and just either play him, make sure you have the opportunity to go out there and get a quarterback in the draft, or maybe go all in on Rodgers in the offseason. You got to do something. The pressure is on because you're already seeing from some of the fan clips from the Raider fans who were in Vegas that a lot of red was in the stadium. You're probably going to see a lot of orange in the stadium this week. The pressure to win is maybe, it's going to be hard for them to kind of blow it up. What are your thoughts about the Raiders here? Because this is Carr is nice guy, solid leader, I guess, all those things. We all know where nice guys finish.
No, definitely. And I think, both can be true. The defense didn't play well and Derek Carr didn't play well. It doesn't have to be one or the other. And I get a lot of pushback on this, but it's been 8 years. The Raiders in my opinion, need to make the playoffs this year. If they don't, then they need to reevaluate everything. I think if they don't make the playoffs, you're looking at a new GM. I don't think Mayock stays around just, based on the talent that they've brought in over the last 3 or 4 years through the draft. It's just not producing for one reason or the other. And you can argue whether that was Gruden or Mayock, but Mayock was part of that situation. And then they're going to need a new head coach because it's clear to me that Rich Bisaccia is not the guy to lead this team forward. And then what do you do with Derek Carr? I think, ideally the new coach and GM would probably try to keep him for a year, but does he really want to be there and learn a new offense, or does he want to move on in his career? Because the Raiders are clearly at this point, in my opinion, going to have to take a step back and go back into a rebuilding mode and build around that young defense and then try to build it up. And, keeping Carr around for another 3 or 4 years or extending him at this point just doesn't make a lot of sense to me logically if they finish this season, 7-10 or 8-9 and don't make the playoffs. And, I want to see the all 22, but again, like Derek Carr to me is still somewhere in that 12th to 13th in the league. I don't think he's a top 10 guy. And at some point, 8 years is 8 years. And he's a good player. He's not a great player. He can't overcome a lot of the inefficiencies on this team, and whether that's receiving targets, offensive line play, defensive line play. To me, I'm out of excuses. Like we gave him 8 years. How many quarterbacks in this league get 8 years with an organization and basically have one playoff appearance? There's not a lot. So not bad talking Derek Carr, but it's only fair at this point to step back and look at this, where you stand in this division. You're looking at Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert. The AFC is loaded at quarterback when you start talking about Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen. And the worst thing that can happen is you keep them around and you finish with 7 or 8 wins every year and you sit right in the middle and you're not in a position to get a quarterback for the future. And This is not – my only hesitation is this isn't the year to really do it when you look at the draft. There's just no options available. There's not a lot of quarterbacks in this draft. Mm-hmm. Do you – go all in for a Rodgers or a Russell Wilson and make a run at one of those guys? Absolutely. If those guys are available and the new GM and the new coach wants to do it, I would be all for that. Does Derek Carr come back? If he can bring Devontae Adams, let's have that conversation. But it needs to be talked about. It can't be, well, we need to give him this, because every year he's been around us. I need a defense. I need a wide receiver. I need this. I need a running game. I need an offensive line. At some point, every team in this league has injuries. Everyone's overcoming obstacles and adversity, and the excuses just have to stop. This was the year that the excuses weren't supposed to be there. I understand Gruden. I understand Ruggs. But if we start looking at this roster, outside of Waller and Crosby and Merrick, where's the talent? I mean, those first-round picks, they're going to be gone. They're going to be off this roster. They're not going to be re-signed. They're not going to get fifth-year options. You're going to lose Farrell. You're going to lose probably Abram in the next 2 years. You're going to lose,
You're
in
not
my
gonna.
opinion, Jacobs. You've lost Ruggs. You've lost Arnett. There's no cheap labor right now. So the Raiders need to get draft picks, unfortunately. And, the only holdup I have is with Waller. Like, if you move on from Carr and you bring in another quarterback, a young guy, like that's a detriment to Waller. So maybe you think about it. But I'm not 100% sold on this time to move on. But it needs to be talked about.
Yeah, I think it. I mean, we've like this whole thing has just been. I understand all the little things that he's had to deal with, and I'm not going to be to kind of turn a blind eye to it. But the bottom line is, you played the Bears and you gave up 17 something points in that game. You got to find a way to win that game. You're the starting quarterback. You can't have 9. You can have a 9-point total. The Giant game. Let's just put aside the Chief game. The record going into the Chief game should have been a 1-loss Raider team, in my mind. Like, the only game they should have lost, in my mind, would have been the game against the Chargers. You get down 21-0, it's almost impossible. And even in that game, if Gruden was a little bit more aggressive, they might have been able to win that game as well. So, that's where this whole thing was lost. I think they lost this game because the Chiefs in the first half. You got to play even Steven with that team. There was no reason. There's no reason that all of a sudden these big plays opened up in the third quarter. They were there in the first half. He just didn't pull the trigger on them. And that is the problem. Like, you can see him, the body language of him hyperventilating every first quarter of every game. It is, I don't know if it's like a sports scientist he needs to go to, a psychologist. I really don't know, but like, it's visible. Like, it's really, you can tell when he's ripping it and he has that swagger and confidence, like the second half of the Raven game. You can't play half the game and expect to be a competitive football team. And the numbers don't lie. I mean, since he came in the league in 2014, he has the third most double-digit losses in the National Football League. That means you're not even competitive in some of these games. In a league where the average margin of victory is 7 points or less than 7 points. So, I mean, I can't sit there and say every single moment of the Raiders' failures. That's Toretto from Fast and the Furious going by me. But not every single loss is, everything is on the quarterback. Every single. But I mean, like, he's cashing those checks that don't bounce. He is, he's the unmistakable quote unquote leader of this team. I've been hearing that from the coach, man, from the GM. You gotta show up better than that. I mean, if they lose that game, 27-24 on a Bucker field goal, I mean, you can breathe a little bit and say, okay, Kansas City's back, tough loss. You can't get up 41 in that moment, and expect nobody to say anything negative about you as a team, Josh Jacobs, or you as a quarterback, Derek Carr.
Yeah, I look at it this way. I know the defense gave up 41 points. We're not excusing the defense. The defense have had their own problems in this game, but like you said, you got to come out and be aggressive. You can't fall behind. The Raiders being down 10, 14 points in the first half of numerous games this year, at some point the offense has to show up and get a lead. The offense needs to go down and score touchdowns, and that falls on the quarterback. And Derek Carr, it's been 8 years, like we talked about. And for me, he has flashes where he has these 3, 4, 5 game stretches every year where it's like, he's turning the quarter. It's his time. And then boom, you get 3 or 4 duds. And that's been his entire career. He's never put together 16 or 17 games, now that you're in a 17-game season, in a row. And honestly, he's never put together 7 or 8. It's always these 3 or 4 game flashes where they get up and then he'll go back and he'll disappear. And there's a numerous reasons for that. But at some point, it's insanity to keep trying to do it, because the worst thing you can do is end up in the middle of the pack. And with the way everything's going, they need to find it. They basically need to turn the page after this Gruden era. Gruden came in here and I was all for it. I was leading the bandwagon. Gruden part 2. He was my guy in the late 90s, early 2000s. He set this franchise back a long time, trading off Mack and Cooper. If you look at it now, and those draft picks didn't pan out, maybe you just got to let Derek Carr go try to win somewhere else and be fair to him. He's done all he can for this organization, and you applaud him for that. But they need to turn the page. If this team ends up 7-10 or 8-9, And I don't know if Mark Davis is going to do that, but it's tough. It's to look forward and think that, a piece here, a piece there, this team is an 11 or 12 win team. I just don't buy that right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be a tough spot. And here's a problem with the whole situation too. There is no big time quarterback coming out. You had those years where you had the Kyler Murrays, you had the Justin Fields, you had all these lists of guys coming out, and now you don't have those guys, and you don't have those opportunities anymore. And the only thing you're gonna flirt with Rodgers and flirt with Wilson and flirt with all these quarterbacks, and then say, "Oh, Derek, by the way, come sign like a 2-year extension." Like, I mean, he wants. I mean, you can't do it. You got to be all. You got almost have to be all in on Derek or not. And that's a tough situation for Mark Davis as well, because he has pressure to win. Like, he has to win in that building. It's not like you're not going to get the walk-up traffic you get on Sundays that you got at the Oakland Coliseum. Hey, it's Sunday morning. You're off, like, going to the game now. Let's just go. You don't have that anymore. And back to the game where he's not pushing the ball down the field. And everybody who wants to DM me and DM Ryan or text the show, please do so. I have no problem with it. But when you're telling me that the Raiders don't have the ability to go deep, I don't know. Brian Edwards seemed to get deep pretty easily on that post route, right? If Deshaun Watson can figure out how to run the right way, maybe he scores on that play. A deep pass down the field. He looked pretty fast still, as it is. So there's plays where he missed Zay Jones screaming down the middle of the field. I mean, where nobody's even guarding him as well. But defensive backs simply, and I tweeted this out today, if they could catch the football or had ball skills, they would play on the other side of the ball. There's like J.R. Alexander, Jalen Ramsey. Those guys have ball skills. They can make those plays. But for the most part, when you throw the ball down the field, you put pressure on the defensive back, and when they're in a trail position to make a play on the ball, which they're not really good at. And what do most of them do? They end up grabbing, holding. You get a penalty, or you get the catch and get a touchdown or a missed tackle. Like, there's no when you throw an on-time ball down the field, there's no negatives to it. There really isn't. So, like, I'm to back that, and when you have the actual one of the best arms in the league that Derek has, it makes it even more frustrating that we're dunking it down on 3rd and 1 to a 2-yard play to Josh Jacobs, who shouldn't be in the game on 3rd down. In the first place, it should be Kenyon Drake, not him or Rashard, because they're not the more explosive player, but that's neither here nor there. But by the end of the day, I mean, but that's the reason why you put the ball on the field. You have to do it because you can't rely on these 11, 12 play, 13 play, 14 play drives. This is not Phil Simms and the New York Giants with Joe Morris.
I tweeted this at someone today, like, the Ruggs needs a deep threat. I think I tweeted out yesterday. That's kind of lazy analysis, in my opinion. I went through the league today. I counted maybe 7 guys that are true, legit speed deep threats that are productive guys. Not the Alvis Whitteds, not the James Jets, but guys that are legit 4-2, 4-3 burners. Yeah, I mean, we're talking the Tyreek Hills, the DK Metcalfs, the Marquise Browns, the Hollywood Browns, those kind of guys. They're legit guys. When they get deep, they're problems. There's not a lot of those guys around the league. That's not an excuse for me.
CeeDee Lamb gets deep, no problem, huh?
He's not a deep guy, though. He's not a true deep threat. He's more of an intermediate guy. And then I look at it and, I hear a lot about, well, the wide receivers aren't getting separation. And to me, they don't have receivers on this team. But I watch a lot of football every Sunday. There's not a lot of wide receivers that are getting 3, 4, 5 yards of separation.
Nope.
It's a lot of quarterbacks throwing back shoulders, guys giving guys chances, letting them be athletes, making plays in one-on-one coverage. And this offense, let's be real, this offense the Raiders have, it's built around Waller and Renfro winning over the middle, and the outside wide receivers 80% of the time are basically running guys out of zone so they can work, stale routes and work to the sideline on these choice routes so they can give them two-way goes. They are not running comeback routes. They're not running out routes. They're not running routes with the outside receivers to get them the ball. Those guys most of the time are running posts or vertical routes to clear out coverage so Waller and Renfro can get open. So we can't sit here and be like, well, Brian Edwards is not putting up 8 for 120, so he's not getting separation. Well, we can't say that about Zay Jones. These guys are not the first or second progression in almost every play the Raiders are calling. So I don't blame it on those guys. It's the offense the Raiders have right now based around Waller and Renfro. And at some point, I think I may have texted you, like Carr just has always had a problem with getting wide receivers involved. It's happened his entire career. So at some point after 8 years, it has to be somewhat of a Carr problem, not in every receiver he's ever played with. He couldn't even get the ball to Amari Cooper at times. So I just look at it. I think it'd be, if, like I said, if the Raiders make the playoffs, this is all mute. If they come back and Carr plays well, but at some point, I just don't think it's right. One, to keep him hostage here, but two, the Raiders won't be in a position to give a quarterback $35 million, which Derek Carr is going to want on an extension with the talent that he has around him. They need to recoup draft picks at some point. And yeah, they're going to downgrade the quarterback's position if they do move on. Most likely they are for a couple of years until they figure it out. But that's what rebuilding is. Sitting in the middle of the pack and winning 7 and 8 games in any sport is the exact wrong way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Michael Crabtree should write a book on how to get the ball, to get a hold.
We're number 15.
We're number 15, or get Aguilar too, right? And get something like that. Maybe Aguilar was worth the money if he was going to play with Carr, the way those guys connected last year. But I mean, like I said, I mean, we talked about it before. I mean, they're in a really tough situation, and I don't know how to get out of it. I don't know how to get out of it, because you cannot. If they were in Oakland, it would be a little bit easier to go ahead and do what we are proposing. But when you're in Vegas, and I know Mark Davis does not want to see a bunch of opposing fans every single night. And and bringing in Devontae Adams is great. I mean, he'll probably run the wrong way too when he gets here. Who knows? But it's not about that for this team. It's about him. Like, I don't want to hear about trust anymore. Like, you just have to just give them the ball, give them an opportunity. But he, quote unquote, trusts Darren Waller, and Darren Waller can't, like the ball that Garoppolo threw today for a first touchdown of the night, a high point ball in the back, in the middle of the end zone. It's a tight window, and you gave Kittle a chance. And what happened? Touchdown. Like, I mean, it's either gonna be a touchdown or incompletion, and then getting the field goal. But at least you threw the ball in the end zone. You're allowed to do that, and he doesn't do that very often. And I think that's one of the problems. I think one of the other problems too is, like, my biggest thing is that I'm into the time play calling and when you call things, and when Drake like finally gets a chance to play, don't know why he's struggling to get time to play when he's obviously the most explosive running back they have. He has that run up the middle. Like, same formation, play action right off of that. Like, don't run it again, like right after it again, to run the ball like 4 or 5 times in a row. Like, I mean, that can't be the mentality of it. And that just, I mean, I thought him and Olsen were this bond that him and Olsen had was so great, because they have so many years of coaching and playing together, that it would be a marriage made in heaven, opposed to what was Gruden, the shackles that Gruden had him under. I'm not sure, but I mean, like I said, Carr is not. I don't know what I think this would have to go. They'd have to end the year with like 6 wins in this second half, in my opinion. Like, it would have to be like a total blank show, sugar honey iced tea show, for them to not extend him, because he has 1 year left.
And he's got 1 year left, and there's no dead money. I mean, I'm not saying release him, but it's going to be, to me, that decision belongs to whoever the new GM and whoever their head coach is. If they want to give it a go with the cap going up, fine. We can talk about the defense giving up all the points we can, and they played bad. How come no one wants to talk about the offense being 5 of 21 on third down the last 2 weeks against the Giants and the Chiefs? Why are we not having that conversation? Because I haven't heard it.
And they did a good job.
If they want to establish the run and they want to run the ball, they have to convert third downs. The offense has to stay on the field at some point. This is going to be a tough year. There's probably 14 or 15 teams in the league that are going to be looking for a new quarterback. There's hardly any in the draft. Everyone's going to be racing for Watson if his legal issues get cleared up. They're going to be going after Russell Wilson if he's available, and Aaron Rodgers. And you're going to see musical chairs. So those 3 guys probably going to end up somewhere else. And then what do the other 11, 12 teams do? There's going to be teams that will line up for Derek Carr if the Raiders want to move on for him. I have no doubt about that. And they're going to have a lot of leverage in the offseason if they want to move that route. Now, part of me wants to know what this offense would look like with a more mobile, modern quarterback that you see around the league where they can extend plays with their feet. I don't know if that guy's out there. I don't think it's Mariota. He doesn't stay healthy. I don't know why people keep clamoring for Mariota, but maybe if you can get him on a cheap one-year $5 million deal and bring someone else in, but to bridge the gap till you find your replacement. But this team, like you said, and I don't blame the fans in Vegas that have tickets that are selling the other. If the other fans want to pay 5, 6, 7, 8 times face value to go, Raider fans are going to sell the tickets if you don't have a winning product. And at the end of the day, this isn't Oakland anymore. You can't buy face value tickets or under face value tickets to get in the game. Like, it's a destination, like you said. Opposing fans are going to circle one game, and it's that one. And the only way to keep them out of that stadium is win.
Yep. And they can't.
That's it.
They can't. They can't do it. They can't do it.
Right now, they can't do that.
5 for 21. 5 for 21. 5 for 21. I mean, it's just. I mean, you can't be a car apologist anymore, man. Like, you just have to. I think you got to have the conversation. I'm not giving him away for nothing. No. And I'm not. I mean, I don't think we're. I don't know. I don't think holding him hostage is like the. Is like. I mean, he doesn't want to go anywhere. So that's the problem. And I really that's the one thing I do agree with him on. I don't think it would take a lot of convincing him, and I think who knows, he might walk away, but I really don't think he is gonna leave the team on his own volition. Like, if he but it's on the flip side of it. Like, if you're Brian Daboll, if you're who's the guy, Doug Peterson, people like that, like,
they're gonna want to keep him.
Isn't Carr one of the guys you're gonna want to keep on the team? Yeah. So that's gonna be the tough part about it. Like, I mean, like, that's why I think we're gonna end up being kind of stuck with them. Like, listen, the Raiders are 5-4. We'll do the deep dive on the next podcast, and we'll see what we're gonna go. But there are some plays I've already seen from some other people who do the film work that there are plays where, like, that read's not open, get off of it, and then just and drive the ball right in the middle of the field to Zay Jones, number 7, like, who's going like this in the middle of the field. I mean, that's just like, I don't know how else for him to communicate to you that he's wide open. Like, what I mean? Like, it's just kind of crazy as far as that goes. I don't know. Anything else before we head out for this one?
No, and I just, I know we're talking about Carr a lot on the show, and if the Raiders bring him back, they bring him back. I totally understand it, but, like, at some point, like we mentioned, the conversation needs to happen. Whether he stays or goes is not up to me or you, but you can't just turn a blind eye and say, well, we're going to fix this next year and this team's going to win 12 games. They've tried that for 8 years.
The defense is actually for 8 straight weeks, they gave up under 30 points a game. Like, when you're doing that and you're getting, and I know people are talking about, the red zone defense has been horrible. Listen, they've been in every game, and then towards before the bye started, they were getting turnovers as well. They're getting pressure on quarterbacks. Like, come on, what do you? I mean, like, we're getting to territory where it's getting kind of ridiculous. Like, you got to be able to, opposing team scores 16 points. You got to be able to. You score 16 points against Brady, against Josh Allen, they're 9 times out of 10 they're gonna win that game. He has to find a way to win those games.
We don't even have to talk about the red zone this week because they only got there one time until garbage time with 3 minutes left in the game. So they had 2 trips in the red zone, including
against
the last one.
Against the Kansas City Chiefs. That's not good. That's not good football. All right. I'll see you next time.
All right. Talk to you later.
Happy times in Raiderland.